We hope you'll have fun with us. Enjoy watching. I never expected that Tuesday afternoon to be anything out of the ordinary. As I pulled into the driveway of our suburban home, I was preoccupied with thoughts of the long workday I'd just finished. My name is Elijah, and at 29, I was still living at home while saving up for my own place. It wasn't ideal, but it had its perks like not having to worry about cooking or laundry. As I stepped out of my car, the warm summer air enveloped me. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the neatly trimmed lawn. I could hear the distant sound of laughter coming from the backyard, a sound that instantly lifted my mood. It was probably my stepmom Emma playing with our golden retriever. Max Emma had been part of our family for about 5 years now. She was younger than my dad in her early 39s and had brought a vibrancy to our home that had been missing since my mom passed away. At first, I was resistant to her presence, but over time I'd grown to appreciate her warmth and kindness. I made my way around the house, loosening my tie. As I walked, the sight that greeted me in the backyard made me stop in my tracks. There was Emma sitting cross-legged on the grass, her honey blonde hair cascading down her back in loose waves. She was wearing a light sundress that hugged her curves in a way I'd never noticed before. Max was bounding around her, his tail wagging furiously as he dropped a well-worn tennis ball at her feet. Come on, Max. Go get it. Emma laughed, tossing the ball across the yard. Her laughter was melodic, carefree in a way that made something stir inside me. I stood there transfixed, watching as she played with Max. There was a grace to her movements, a joy in her expression that I found utterly captivating. As Max returned with the ball, Emma glanced up and caught sight of me. Her face lit up with a smile that made my heart skip a beat. Elijah, you're home early, she called out, waving me over. I felt a sudden nervousness as I approached, which was odd considering how comfortable I usually felt around her. Hey, Emma. I managed my voice sounding strangely tight. Thought I'd duck out of work a bit early today. She patted the grass beside her, inviting me to sit well. I'm glad you did come join us. Max has endless energy today. I hesitated for a moment before lowering myself onto the grass next to her. The scent of her perfume, something floral and light, wafted over me, making my head spin slightly. Max bounded over, dropping the ball between us and looking expectantly from one to the other. Emma laughed again, the sound sending a shiver down my spine. I think he wants you to throw it this time, she said, her eyes twinkling with amusement. I picked up the ball, grimacing slightly at the dog slabber. Coding it all right. Max, I said, winding up for the throw. Go long. The ball soared across the yard with Max hot on its heels as we sat there taking turns throwing the ball for Max. I found myself hyper-aware of Emma's presence beside me. Every accidental brush of her arm against mine sent electricity coursing through my body. I SNU glances at her when I thought she wasn't looking, noticing the way the sunlight played on her hair, the curve of her neck, the soft rise and fall of her chest as she breathed what was happening to me. This was Emma, my stepmom. I'd known her for years, had never thought of her as anything other than my father's wife. But suddenly, in this moment, it was as if I was seeing her for the first time. The realization both thrilled and terrified me. You seem distracted, Emma said, softly breaking into my thoughts. Long day at work. I blinked, realizing I'd been staring.
Yeah.
I mumbled, feeling heat rise to my cheeks, just a lot on my mind. I guess she tilted her head, studying me with those piercing blue eyes. Want to talk about it? I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. How could I possibly explain what I was feeling, these sudden, confusing emotions that were threatening to overwhelm me? Emma reached out, placing her hand on my arm. Her touch was gentle, comforting, but it sent a jolt through me that was anything but familial. You can always talk to me, right? She said, her voice low and intimate about anything. I swallowed hard, nodding. I know, I managed to say thanks.
Emma.
We sat in silence for a while. The only sounds the panting of Max as he flopped down between us, exhausted from his play. The sun was sinking lower on the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange, and it was a beautiful evening, but I barely noticed the sunset. All I could focus on was the woman beside me and the riot of emotions she was stirring within me. As the light began to fade, Emma stretched, arching her back in a way that made my mouth go dry. "We should probably head inside," she said, brushing grass off her dress. "I need to start dinner soon." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We both stood, and for a moment we were standing close, so close I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Her eyes met, and I saw something flicker at her gaze, something that made my heart race. But then the moment passed, and Emma was turning towards the house coming. She called over her shoulder, already a few steps ahead. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Yeah," I replied, my voice hoarse. "Right behind you." As I followed Emma into the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed between us. The comfortable familiarity we'd cheered for years had been replaced by a crackling tension, an awareness that was both exciting and terrifying. I watched as she moved around the kitchen, starting preparations for dinner. Her movements were graceful, efficient, and I found myself mesmerized by the simplest actions, the way she reached for a pan, how she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Elijah," her voice startled me out of my reverie. "Would you mind setting the table?" "Of course," I replied, grateful for something to distract me from the confusing thoughts swirling in my head. As I laid out the plates and cutlery, I couldn't help but wonder, was I imagining this newfound tension between us, or had Emma felt it too? The way she'd looked at me in the backyard, the lingering touch on my arm, were these signs of something more, or just figments of my overactive imagination? I shook my head, trying to clear these dangerous thoughts. This was Emma, my stepmom, whatever I thought I was feeling. It shouldn't go any further. But as I glanced over at her, catching her eye across the kitchen, I knew that this was far from over. Something had awakened inside me, something that wouldn't easily be put back to sleep. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of stolen glances and accidental touches. Every time Emma's hand brushed against mine as she passed me a dish, every time our eyes met across the dinner table, I felt that same electric charge. It was maddening. This constant awareness of her presence. Incorporated. After dinner, as I helped her clean up, the kitchen suddenly felt too small, too intimate. We moved around each other in a dance of unspoken tension, the air between us thick with words unsaid. "I think I'm going to turn in early," I finally said, unable to bear the any longer. "Got an early start tomorrow." Emma nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Of course. Sleep well, Elijah." As I climbed the stairs to my room, I could feel her eyes on me. I turned at the top of the stairs, catching her gaze one last time before disappearing into my room. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with thoughts of Emma. The way she'd looked in that sundress, the sound of her laughter, the feeling of her hand on my arm. I knew sleep would be a long time coming. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything, a journey of discovery, desire, and forbidden love that would test the boundaries of everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and my own heart. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluded me. My mind kept replaying the events of the afternoon, analyzing every glance, every touch, every word exchange between Emma and me. The rational part of my brain tried to dismiss these thoughts, reminding me of the taboo nature of my feelings. But my heart was singing a different tune. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke with a start, the first rays of dawn peeking through my curtains. My dreams had been vivid, filled with images of Emma that made my cheeks burn with embarrassment and desire. Groggily, I made my way downstairs, hoping a strong cup of coffee would clear my head. As I entered the kitchen, I froze. Emma was there, her back to me, as she stood at the counter, humming softly to herself. She was wearing a silk robe that clung to her curves, her hair piled messily atop her head. My breath caught in my throat. "Good morning, Elijah," she said, turning to face me with a warm smile. "You're up early." I nodded, not trusting my voice. She handed me a mug of coffee, her fingers brushing mine as I took it. That simple touch sent sparks through my body. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, her eyes searching mine with concern. "Not really," I admitted, taking a sip of coffee to hide my nervousness. Emma leaned against the counter, her robe shifting slightly to reveal a tantalizing glimpse of her collarbone. Is everything okay? You seem distracted. Last night, I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. I'm fine. Elijah's work stuff. She raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying it. Elijah, she said, softly, stepping closer to me. You can talk to me about anything, right? I'm here for you. The sincerity in her voice, the genuine concern in her eyes. It was all too much. Before I could stop myself, the words tumbled out. It's you. Emma, you're what's distracting me. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. But then I saw something else in her gaze. A flicker of was a desire. Elijah. She breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. What are you saying? I set my coffee mug down, my hands shaking. I don't know. I admitted just yesterday in the backyard, something changed. I saw you differently, and now I can't stop thinking about you. Emma was silent for a long moment, her eyes never leaving mine. Then slowly she reached out and took my hand in hers. Oh, Elijah, she said softly. I felt it too for longer than I cared to admit. My heart soared at her words, even as my mind reeled with the implications. But what about Dad? This is wrong, isn't it? Emma sighed, her thumb tracing circles on the back of my hand. It's complicated, she admitted. Your father and I, things haven't been good between us for a while now, but that doesn't make this any less challenging. I nodded, understanding the weight of what we were discussing. So what do we do? Instead of answering, Emma stepped closer, her free hand coming up to cut my cheek. I don't know, she whispered, but I do know that I can't ignore these feelings anymore. And then she was sing me, her lips soft and warm against mine. It was gentle at first, hesitant, but quickly grew more passionate as years of pent-up desire came rushing to the surface. My arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as her fingers tangled in my hair. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. Wow, I managed to say, my head spinning. Emma laughed softly, resting her forehead against mine. Yeah, wow, she agreed, but reality quickly set in, and I felt a pang of guilt. What about Dad? I asked, again, the weight of our action settling on my shoulders. Emma sighed, stepping back slightly, but keeping her hand in mine. Your father, he's been having an affair, she admitted. Her voice tinged with sadness. For months now I've known for a while, but I didn't know how to tell you. I felt a surge of anger towards my father, followed quickly by relief that our actions weren't as betraying as I'd initially thought. I'm so sorry, Emma, I said, squeezing her hand. She shook her head. Don't be. It's not your fault. And in a way, it's given me the courage to admit my feelings for you. We spent the next few hours really talking about everything, about her marriage to my father, about the feelings we'd both been harboring, about what this meant for our future. It was intense, emotional, and at times uncomfortable, but it felt necessary. As the morning wore on, we made a decision. We would keep our feelings a secret for now, give ourselves time to figure things out before potentially upending everyone's lives. It wouldn't be easy, we knew, but the connection between us was too strong to ignore. Over the next few weeks, Emma and I settled into a new routine. On the surface, everything appeared normal. We went about our daily lives, interacted with my father, as we always had. But underneath there was a current of electricity, a shared secret that made every interaction thrilling. We stole moments when we could, a lingering touch as we passed in the hallway, a meaningful glance across the dinner table, hushed conversations late at night when my father was working late. Each of these moments was precious, a reminder of the deep connection we shared. One evening, about a month after our first we found ourselves alone in the house. My father was away on a business trip, or so he claimed. Emma and I both suspected he was with his mistress, but we didn't dwell. Instead, we reveled in the rare opportunity to be together without fear of discovery. We were sitting on the couch, ostensibly watching a movie, but neither of us was paying much attention to the screen. Emma was curled up against my side, her head resting on my shoulder, and I was hyper-aware of every point where our bodies touched. Elijah, she said, softly, tilting her head to look up at me. Are you happy with this? With us? I looked down at her, taking in her beautiful features, the vulnerability in her eyes. happier than I've ever been. I answered honestly. Are you? She smiled, reaching up to trace my jaw with her fingertips. Incredibly happy, she whispered, but also scared what we're doing. It's risky if your father found out. I leaned down, silencing her worries with a gentle asterisk, 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 S. We'll figure it out. I promise together. As our K asterisk, 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 SES grew more heated, I marveled at how natural this felt. How right, despite the unconventional nature of our relationship, being with Emma felt like coming home. On it. We made love for the first time that night, right there on the living room couch. It was passionate, tender, and more intimate than anything I'd ever experienced. As we lay tangled together afterward, I knew with absolute certainty that I was in love with Emma. The weeks turned into months, and our secret relationship deepened. We became experts at stolen moments and hidden glances. But as time went on, the strain of keeping our love a secret began to wear on us both. It was Emma who finally broached the subject. One night, as we lay in bed, her head pillow on my chest. Elijah, she said softly. I think it's time we told your father. I tensed my hand, stilling where it had been stroking her hair. Are you sure? I asked, my voice tight with anxiety. She propped herself up on an elbow, looking down at me with those piercing blue eyes. I'm sure, she said firmly. I love you, Elijah. I want to be with you openly, without hiding, and your father, he deserves to know the truth. I nodded slowly, knowing she was right, but dreading the conversation to come. Okay. I agreed, we'll tell him together. The next day we sat my father down and told him everything. His reaction was explosive, to say the least. There was yelling accusations, threats of disownment. It was painful and messy, but in the end, a strange calm settled over the house. My father, it turned out, had been looking for a way out of his marriage for months. While he was hurt and angry about our relationship, he admitted that he was relieved to have everything out in the open. In the weeks that followed, our lives changed dramatically. Emma moved out, filing for divorce. I found my own apartment, needing space from the family home and all its memories. It was a difficult time, full of awkward family dinners and 10 conversations. But through it all, Emma and I clung to each other. Our love, tested by the fires of family disapproval and societal judgment, only grew stronger. We knew it wouldn't be easy, that there would always be people who didn't understand or accept our relationship. But we were committed to making it work now, as I sit here writing this. It's been a year since we came clean about our relationship. Emma and I are living together in a small house on the outskirts of town. My relationship with my father is still strained, but we're working on it. He's even started dating someone new, which has helped ease some of the tension. Looking back, I never could have predicted the term. My life would take that sunny afternoon in the backyard. But as I watch Emma moving around our kitchen, humming softly to herself just like she did that fateful morning, I know I wouldn't change a thing. Our love may have started in an unconventional way, may have faced challenges that would have broken a weaker bond. But it's real, it's deep, and it's ours, and that's all that matters. As Emma turns and catches my eye, her face lighting up with that smile, I've come to love so much. I'm filled with a sense of peace. Whatever the future holds, whatever challenges we may face, I know we'll face them together, because that's what love is. Standing strong in the face of adversity, choosing each other every day, and building a life filled with joy, understanding, and unwavering commitment. And as I cross the room to take her in my arms, K asterisk asterisk sing her deeply. I know that this love, this life we've built together is exactly where I'm meant to be. Dear friends, thank you very much for watching. Leave comments, put likes, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel.